Yep.
Okay. You're on 5, 4.
Welcome to Oath Keepers Now. I'm Mike Chisholm. Quick announcement. On all my shows, I always tell you about Ron Clayson's class, which is called The Making of America. Every Friday at 1 p.m. at 150 Main on Old Pocatello. It's a great class. It's from 1 to about 2:30. If anyone want to learn about the Constitution, I suggest you guys take the little time that you have and seriously give it a try. You'll realize that the founding fathers and mothers weren't always in agreement, but they were in agreement when the Constitution was finally ratified. In any case, I have a guest with me today, Chad Christensen. How are you, sir?
Hi, Mike.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks.
And I hear you're running for sheriff.
Yes, I'm running for sheriff again, I guess, if you can put it that way.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and basically what qualifications do you have to run for sheriff?
I'm born and raised in Idaho Falls, Bonneville County, so I'm a native there. I was born and raised and went to high school there and went to college at Riggs College and then also ISU here in town. My background is juvenile corrections, probation, parole, state investigations, welfare fraud investigations, military police. I think that's covered all of my background there. And I enjoy outdoors quite a bit. You know, I went deer hunting with my son last weekend, and he shot at his first deer, but missed it. So. Oh,
that's all right. He shot at the first.
He shot at his first deer, and I didn't quit it. It was a long shot, so it was his first shot, and he'll get better. And you know, I enjoy hunting with my boys, and that's important to me is my boys and being out in the outdoors with them and show them that way of life. And
so you're running in what county now?
Bonneville County.
Bonneville County. That's our adjoining county, isn't it?
No, we have I'm a Bingham in between.
Bingham.
Bingham. So there's Bannock, Bingham, and Bonneville. So we're close, yeah.
We're neighbors.
We're neighbors.
Tell me, in your county, what do you feel when you become sheriff? What do you feel is the most important issue or issues that you have to address that may not have been addressed by the sheriff that's presently holding the position?
You know, the sheriff was asked by the chairman of the Republican Party previous to the primary election last May that what he would do if the federal government came to town and tried to instill martial law. And he said that won't happen in Bonneville County. He's asked again, okay, just pretend if it did, what would you do? He said that just won't happen in Bonneville County. So to me, he's just, you know, I don't know if it's apathy or what, but what I would do, the most pressing issue in Bonneville County or the United States, for that matter, is what's coming ahead in today's times is, you know, possible economic collapse, possible martial law might be instilled in big cities or even around here, and what I would do is tell the federal government that's not happening in my county, go somewhere else and do it, but it won't happen in my county. That's the biggest issue I think we're facing in these times is the federal government's becoming far too intrusive with the regulations, their laws, the rules, just overbearing as far as I'm concerned. And I think it needs to stop. And I mean, we should have more state control, more.
I think sheriffs, this is just my opinion too, I think sheriffs, some of them, not all of them, I don't need to be stopped everywhere I go, I'm just kidding guys, gals. But some sheriffs have forgotten that when they're elected to protect the people of their county.
You bet. From
everyone. And how will you do that? Besides stopping the federal intrusion.
Well, for example, yeah, the federal intrusion, one more point I'd like to make is last May the IRS came into town and raided a small business. And her from what I saw, I interviewed this woman, and her rights were violated grossly. And the sheriff's office was there to protect her from those violations of her rights. And if I was sheriff, I would be there to make sure that wouldn't happen to my citizens of the county. So for example, if my biggest concern is their constitutional rights that aren't violated in my county by anybody, the federal government, by any entity that could come in and violate those rights.
We spoke before we went on camera a bit about, here we go, I don't think I'll drive through Gem County, but anyway, Gem County, Idaho guys, and that's all over the internet today about what happened up there where they had a domestic call. Someone called and said that a specific party had a domestic argument, hollering. Mm-hmm. across, and this is on the internet, this is documented, and not because nobody believes everything on the internet, and I don't either, but this is a recording from dispatch that said, well, in the dispatch to your sheriff, to the Gem County Sheriff's Department, it said that they're constitutionalists. So they, from what I understand, of course, we don't know the whole story yet. They ramped up their approach with M16s or whatever they carry, AR-15s, and they actually literally pulled the woman out of the house. That's on video too, and that's all over the internet. What's your position on that?
Yeah, I saw the video. My friend sent it to me, and I saw the video. So from what I saw, this is you know, like I said, I don't know the whole story, what the background is. But from what I saw, the sheriff's office came up to the door, pulled her out of the house, and said, "Hey, you know, we've heard there's been a fight this morning, an argument, or a domestic situation." He said, "Yeah, we had an argument." That's all they said. So they cuffed both the man and the woman, I believe husband and wife, detained them, and went inside the home and did a complete search of the home, cleared all the rooms, and I believe they found maybe some, you know, marijuana, but that's beside the point.
Well, actually, what they found, from what I understand, I don't mean to interrupt you, but and just make clarification. But from what they found, yeah, were plant growing stuff, but they were growing tomatoes.
Okay.
So,
well, yeah, I heard that the sheriff's office say I'm leaning a warrant for that. So they had no warrant to go in the home in the first place, obviously.
That's correct.
If they wanted to, you know, because I heard that flat out. You know, we'll need a warrant for that. Mm-hmm. So there's no search warrant to go in the home. There's no probable cause to go in the home because, you know, there wasn't danger right there, imminent danger right there to go in the home for probable cause. There was a previous argument earlier in the day, which isn't probable cause. So that's very concerning to me. That
no exigent circumstances.
No.
None.
No. So that's very concerning to me that that they went and searched the home based on an argument early in the day, if that's the true story.
And of course, we don't know the whole story yet. So we're giving we're giving the sheriff the benefit. We're giving the sheriff the benefit of the doubt.
I'll give them that, but you know, if it's the way I see it so far, that's a problem. You know, they went in there without a proper warrant that's been court-ordered by the judge, a search warrant, or the probable cause that we talked about. So if they did, if they didn't have probable cause or the warrant, they were violating their constitutional rights, obviously.
Mike, when you say constitutional, Chad, the biggest thing that I look at is when the dispatcher puts over the radio, and they're constitutionalists. What has that? I was an officer a police officer, city cop for a short period. You've worked with numerous federal agencies and stuff, which we'll get into. Why did they have to say constitutionalists over the dispatch? What has that got to do with anything?
Well, we are. I'm a constitutionalist, and I'm proud.
So
am
I.
I'm proud of it. But in the past, I worked for the state, as an investigator, and I remember one situation where I was working on a case, and I was helping a guy from Coeur d'Alene, investigator up there. He asked me to do a favor for him down here with the case he was working on, and he mentioned the same thing, the constitutionalists. And I said, "What does that have to do with anything?" I asked him that flat out. He said, "Well, they're kind of radical and they're extremists." I'm like, "Okay, well, that's not my. I believe in the Constitution as an inspired document, and to protect tyrants from our rights, mm-hmm. or of our rights." But and I told him that same thing. Why are we extremists? Why are we radical? We believe in the Constitution as an inspired document of God, and he didn't say anything. But that's the problem out there is people perceive this constitutionalists as radical extremists or right-wing freaks. Gun-toting right-wing
extremists. Yeah.
Which
and we all gun-tote. All of us carries guns.
You bet.
And look at the crime rate here. I mean, we have all the crime as anyone else has crime. I mean, yes, we do all the time, mm-hmm. but not as repetitive as in a big city or a city or a town where they have no firearm laws. I mean, or they're unconstitutional laws where they can't have no concealed carry weapon or any of that. Mm-hmm. Speaking of, let's move on a little bit here. A posse. Would you consider forming a posse in your county?
Well, what I've described, it's a little bit more politically correct, I guess, than a posse or a militia, but that's what it is in effect. But what I would do is create a reserve, a bigger reserve that they already have, and also a reserve that's inactive, but trains with the sheriff's office, for firearms and arrest techniques and so forth. What it would be, I would beef up that reserve. So to the point, possibly thousands of people that would be on that reserve, and they'd be trained and ready to go on a moment's call.
And on a voluntary basis.
Voluntary
That's
basis.
what it's all about.
You bet. It's all voluntary.
At no cost to the city or county or whichever law enforcement agency.
Exactly. So what I would do is I would look for the concealed weapons permits holders, and I would require that of them to have that permit. So it'd be a background check already done. That's paid by them, not the county. So I would require that they have that concealed weapons permit when they apply for the reserve position, and possibly thousands of people that would be part of that reserve system and train with the sheriff's office.
And called upon when they really need it.
Yes.
When you say posse, people go, or reserves, they go, oh, wow, everybody wants to be wannabes. But the truth is, the majority of people, when I had a brief time in law enforcement, a few years, and we had a reserve force, they weren't, wow, they just wanted to help the community. And speaking of the community, how will you change your Bonneville County's Sheriff's Department? Is there a lot of changes you think you need to initiate?
From my understanding, is the sheriff's office used a company to create policy, based on they were pretty much fearful of being sued, I believe. What my changes would be based on the Constitution mostly, and also I believe that meth is a problem in Bonneville County still. It's the scourge of the county. There's crime revolving around methamphetamine, and for years the county's only had a few guys on narcotics force to combat that methamphetamine problem. So I would beef up that methamphetamine.
That's some nasty stuff.
Oh, it's nasty. It ruins lives.
It ruins lives, yes.
It's harmful to children because their parents are on it, and they get neglected and they get abused. And
it's dangerous. Those things, I guess, those meth labs explode. And
meth labs, they definitely explode.
And even the noxious fumes and the poisonous fumes.
You bet.
Does it smell like eggs or something, I think they say.
Like a sulfur, yeah.
Sulfur.
Yeah, you bet.
Concealed weapons permit. Let's go back to that real quick.
Sure.
This is just my opinion too, and I believe a concealed weapons permit is not really necessary. You look at Alaska, Vermont. When you go down and you get a concealed weapons permit, you're kind of given into, you know what I'm trying to say?
Deregulation.
That's right. And the Second Amendment says shall not infringe. What's your position on those?
I believe the CCW is unconstitutional. I believe. Or CCP, whatever you call it.
Yeah, there's difference.
Yeah, it's different. But, Wyoming has they passed a law saying they abolished that, and all law-abiding citizens can carry a firearm, concealed or not, which is in Wyoming now. I believe that's taking effect 6 months ago or so, which should happen all over the United States because, like you said, that permit is regulation that infringes upon our rights as the right to bear arms.
That's right.
It doesn't say in the Constitution that we can't conceal or we can't pack a gun in our vehicle that's in access within our arm's reach, or when it's loaded or
unloaded or all that.
Unloaded.
Got to be locked in the trunk or.
Exactly. All those regulations are just more of the examples that I believe the federal government's too, or state government's too intrusive into our lives, and it's none of business. If I pack a gun, it's concealed, it's loaded, it's none of business.
One thing I'm sure you've learned, that I've learned being in law enforcement too, that if somebody wants to do you harm, I don't care how many permits or laws you got out there, they're going to do you harm.
You bet.
The shooting in Aurora, the theater, all those people that got shot, if they would do that here in Pocatello, I'm sure half the theater would be shooting back at whoever was shooting.
You bet. I'd be one.
In Idaho, period.
I'd be one. I'm packing all the time.
Me too. Me too.
So, yeah.
Let me next. Are you ready for all this public scrutiny that you've been involved in? I mean, are you ready for all this public scrutiny?
Well, if I'm elected, it's going to happen, and I expect that. And it's happened to me before in law enforcement that I've been called out on certain decisions I made, or that's scrutinized, like a Monday night, or quarterbacking on Monday night or Monday morning after the Sunday football game. But you're going
to have to make some tough decisions.
Sure.
And most of the time, they may not be the popular decision.
Especially if I'm fighting the federal government on certain things, that's not going to be.
Like Sheriff Joe Arpaio and the sheriff down in Grants Pass, Oregon, and there's several sheriffs now that are, ramping up and saying, "Hey, we were elected to protect the people, not to give in to the federal government." Sorry, I was just talking to whoever was listening to me out there, which is probably a lot of people.
Yeah. For example, I just my friend sent me a link on a YouTube video in Oregon, and the Forest Service closed some rows down in Oregon.
That was in Grants Pass.
Grants Pass, that's it, yeah. And you know, the sheriffs and a couple of sheriffs got up in this town meeting, which I would have as a sheriff too. I think it's important to address concerns with your constituents and talk to them and always communicate, and not be closed up in your office and not talk to your people. But what they did is they got up there and said, we want to enforce those road closures, and he said if the Forest Service tries to enforce them as well, we'll interfere.
Yeah, he said he would arrest them.
Yeah, he said he'd arrest them. That's correct. Which I would do the same. You know, if Forest Service came into my county and tried to close roads that they've been open for decades, for whatever reason.
For some silly reason as wetlands or something that's
bureaucracy. For bureaucracy reasons or bureaucratic reasons. And it happens all the time. And there's these road closures, and you know, because of what do you call it, preserving the soil or whatever.
They put these names on there like, yeah, we're going to make this a wetland, or we're going to make sure that this is preserved, and it's just hogwash.
It is hogwash.
It's hogwash.
So I'd be the same kind of sheriff. I would, you know, uphold those, those rights of the citizens, of their land, not the federal government's land. That's the misconception that all these people have, and they call it federal land. Well, it was taken by the federal government illegally from our citizens of the state. So that's something I would fight for too. Is those lands that they're controlling? Is I would step in and say, no, you don't control those lands. They're my constituents' land, not yours.
You're gonna have a lot of work ahead of you, Chad. You're gonna have a lot of work, brother.
I'll be a target, you bet.
You're already a target. You're running.
Sure.
Did anyone specifically in your life, because we all of us out there, and myself included, had someone, maybe one or more people in their lives, inspired them to move to where they are today, move into a specific career? Anyone really inspired you that you can look back now and say, this is why you're doing this, or this is why you're in whatever position you're in now? I know you get your own investigative firm.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. This last week I was kind of overwhelmed with what's coming in the Constitution, and I believe God inspires me at times, and I think you as well.
Yes.
If you're involved in the Constitution and what you do, I think you're also inspired at times as well. I was sitting at home at my desk, and I began to think why I felt this way, and why I was raised this way, and I thought of my dad, and he's a very patriotic man, served in the military, and taught me constitutional principles, and I think believe in being raised that way has just instilled that spirit in me that wants to fight for people's rights and my son's rights and their freedoms for the future. And so I attribute most of that to my father and his patriotism and
he raised a good son, then, you could say.
I'm sorry?
He raised a good son,
then.
I
appreciate it.
And you're raising a good son.
Well, thanks. 2 sons.
Who just went hunting the other day.
2 sons, yeah. Well. One deer hunting with me. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
I know we spoke about the Constitution. I know you feel very strongly, as I do, about the Constitution. How will you ensure that your deputies are constitutionally proficient? Will you make sure that here in Bannock County, I'm trying to pass another resolution about making sure each elected official is proficient with the Constitution. Will you do the same for your deputies?
I will. I thought of that as well. There's deputies out there that I believe that are just follow orders. So I believe some that will have a problem with. Hopefully we can remedy that with certain deputies. But what I'll do is have trainings, on the Constitution, basically, and how to follow the Constitution, how to give people their rights, and not violate those rights as a deputy. Like Jim County, if that is the case in Jim County, that won't happen in my county. Yeah. If that does happen, there'll be serious consequences
for those that
do encroach on those citizens' lives. And
you're in the service.
Still am, yes.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I was in the service, and I never thought I followed orders just foolishly. Go get that bunker. Well, I got to think about that. Is this the correct approach? And at times we have to do what we're told, but this is why it's important that they are proficient with the Constitution. Let me ask a hot subject here. Illegal immigration. Oh, I said illegal immigration. Oh, well. Undocumented workers? No, I don't think so. Illegal immigration. How will you deal with that in your county?
Well, I've made a statement on my website, on my campaign website, and I've addressed that concern also as a you mentioned Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and I'd be the same way as he functions down in Maricopa County. I would arrest those aliens on site if they're pulled over, and and they were suspect of being an illegal alien, couldn't speak the language, or there's some kind of indication they're illegal. We would look into that, and if they were illegal, we detain them and put them in jail, and then call the ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement. So that would be addressed that way.
You said that you worked with various federal agencies.
We worked with them side by side, yes.
What kind of things besides fraud investigation? Anything else you want to?
Yes, the ATF and I, we worked quite a bit on.
Oh, you said ATF.
I know. I know.
ATF.
Well, I understand the ATF.
ATFE, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives.
Well, I understand.
There's a lot of good people in the ATF.
There is, yeah.
I've met several. They're outstanding individuals, but there is that element.
The encroachment of our rights. I agree that the ATF does overstep that bounds on people's rights. But what we did is we worked on certain, I did parole, felony parole, and I would find the firearm in a felon, and so what I would do is I would call the ATF, hey, I found this firearm on a felon, or I know this felon had a firearm.
Which in some cases is an automatic 5-year sentence. 5
years in the federal penitentiary, yeah. Which I don't have a problem with that law.
Neither do I.
But I agree the regulation by the ATF on you and I, the FFLs, we have to we have to apply for the
Class 3
to sell firearms.
Form 4 for
which is more problems with the Constitution. It's not their decision to tell us you can't sell this firearm, you can't buy that firearm, or to do a background check on us. When we buy our firearm, that's not up to them to decide. It's up to the state to decide as far as background check goes. But
that's right.
So I do agree with that with the ATF that are.
Wow, you said ATF, and I went, oh my goodness, ATF. Oh, that's a touchy subject with everyone when you say ATF. Well, up here in wonderful Idaho and Northwest, I say, and anybody that loves their guns, and I say guns, yes, firearms or whatever politically correct word you want to hear out there that don't agree with me, or those that enjoy the freedom of the Second Amendment, like the First Amendment. I mean, everything's just being taken away.
I don't know if you saw. I'm going to ask you a question now.
Sure, you can ask. Oh, I never had that.
I don't know if you saw that back in Virginia. There was a case with Brandon Robb. You heard it?
Yes.
I just kind of that kind of sparked my memory with that, and he was arrested illegally by the federal government and by the state police and sheriff's office because he posted Facebook messages, so they came in and arrested him first.
And even the firearm they found wasn't converted or whatever. No.
Oh.
We get some crazy stuff happening all over. I mean, being in Idaho as Idaho Oath Keeper State President, okay, I don't care about titles. I really don't. I get a lot of intel. A lot of intel.
I'm sure.
Sometimes stuff I don't even want to. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if they target you for some reason, they'll come after you. It doesn't matter. And at times, and I'm not saying everybody does this, guys, and I'm sure I'm going to really put a target on my back. He's going to even have probably a laser on my back here pretty soon. But the people that are holding offices today, that if they don't like you, they'll find somewhere to circumvent and use the power of the ATF or the DEA, or you can go on and on. FDA, for all I know.
Oh, sure, FDA is another agency that's
overpowering
and regulation and
TSA.
TSA, yeah. I mean, all these alphabet soup agencies are just
alphabet soup.
Most of them are just can overstep their bounds with the Constitution and encroach on our rights, and I mean it's over. For example, in California, the FDA has overstepped their bounds and arrested people that are growing organic food, which is that's ridiculous. What is that? That complete violation.
People being arrested even in Texas. There was I can't remember the incident because he had huge water collection. I don't know if you heard about that one, because he was collecting rainwater, and the county said no.
I did.
That's just collecting rainwater?
That's just flat out tyranny to me.
That's tyranny. It is. It's tyranny.
The FDA going in and arrest people for organic milk and eggs and.
Yes, that's happened in several states now about the milk. Hey, I grew up on a farm on Kauai. My grandfather and I, early in the morning, we'd be milking that cow, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'd pack up that little bowl of my grandma's, you know, hey, Grandma, and she'd prepare it. I don't think I ever got sick over that milk.
No.
It was probably a lot healthier than the stuff we drink
Naturally
today.
homogenized, I believe, isn't it? Yeah.
Getting back to you, I'm sorry. We're down about 4 minutes. Oh, my goodness. Anyways, we're down about 4 minutes. Sorry, that was my phone. I should have turned it off. How will you want your community, your county's community, to interact with you? I know we got off a little track here. Sorry.
Well, I mentioned that, you know, I would what I would do is hold town meetings, actively, you know, hopefully, you know, like once a quarter at least, and, you know, address the concerns of the public. You know, if our deputies are doing something, you know, and the public wants to address that, or, you know, vice versa. You know, if the you know, deputies want to see certain things from the public more.
Is there a lot of right now in your community? Is there a lot of ongoing activities that has interaction with both the sheriff's department or just, you know, any law enforcement department in your county? And
you know, I do believe there's a little bit there going on. You know, obviously the DARE program is still in effect, and
you know, the DARE program is a great program. I mean, that goes back when I was an officer way back when.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's that, of course, and there's, I believe that, you know, the sheriff does, you know, participate in a few activities in the community, I believe, and from what I've seen, you know, he goes and, you know, attends a few meetings with, you know, organizations and so forth. But you know, what I believe is that, you know, the sheriff's office should be more involved with the community. You know, I believe there's some going on there in Bonneville County, but not enough. You know, I believe they need to address, you know, the real concerns, you know, which they don't. They're hiding from. They don't want to address the real nasty subjects.
And what do you think then? Do you think it's yeah, I notice a lot of times for political purposes, they don't address the most important issues, especially in an election season.
Oh, sure.
Especially if they know it'll get them less votes.
Well, you know, I noticed on the sheriff's Facebook page, you know, somebody posted up a legitimate question. You know, it wasn't offensive, or it wasn't outright disrespectful towards the sheriff or the sheriff's office, and they would ask a question, and all of a sudden it was deleted. Which I don't understand that. You know, why, just answer the question, and deal with it, and you know, don't hide behind your Facebook and delete it, and you know, whatever it is. But you know, the sheriff's a good man, I believe. He's an honest man that, and a decent man. But I just believe he hides behind certain issues and doesn't want to address. You know.
Well, hopefully you will change that when you get into office. Got about 30 seconds. You got anything else to say?
Mike, I just you know. I love this country. I love the people in it. I love Bonneville County, and I'm all about the Constitution and preserving those rights that we were given by our founding fathers, and I'm sorry, not the founding fathers, but our God.
That's right. We're going to wrap up here. Chad, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it, and good luck in your campaign. And maybe when I drive through, you won't give me a ticket. No, I'm just kidding. All right. I hope you enjoyed today's show. As I always say, God bless, and for our republic.